All right, it looks like it's back up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Women in Texas Film Festival. We're here with the Q&A for the Magical Realism shorts. And I'd like to start by going around and having all the filmmakers introduce themselves and talk about which film they're affiliated with.
Hi, my name is Razan. I am the director of the short film Midas. I'm Jordanian, coming to you from Dubai.
Hi, I'm Britt Lauer. I'm the writer and director of Circus Person. I'm currently in Los Angeles.
Oh, and Tracy's here with us too. I guess somebody else can introduce themselves now.
Hi, I'm Ariel McLeese. I am the director of Hexatic Phase. I live in Los Angeles.
And let's see here. And then Heidi, which film you're with, No More Than This, correct?
Yeah, hi. My name is Hai Yi Nguyen. I'm based in the United Kingdom. I'm the writer-director of No More Than This.
Mm-hmm. And Tracy, who just joined us.
I am Tracy Lehman. I'm the writer and director of Ghosted.
Excellent, cool. Well, this is a very cool block. I was very, there's just such something really fun and, interesting about films that kind of tweak our expectation from some normal kind of, dramatic films or otherwise. And something that always interests me about filmmakers is that every one of you are storytellers. And it always feels like there is a particular need to tell the story this specific story. And I wanted to ask everyone what need that met. Why tell this story that you made?
I can go.
Yeah, Tracy, go ahead.
So Ghosted, I do write a lot of stuff from personal experience, and I fell in love with someone who was kind of stuck in the past.
Right.
And I kind of felt like the ex was like following us around, as we're trying to get to know each other. So and then I thought, well, it feels like he has this, and I thought, well, what am I bringing? I'm bringing all my own baggage. And so the Ghosted is pretty much a story of this woman with a lot of baggage who falls in love with a man haunted by his past. And literally she has a lot of baggage, and literally he's followed by the ghost of his ex. So I kind of make these things because I'm like, oh, I learned something and I want to hold on to it and maybe share it, whatever it is. So that's kind of how I got inspired.
Yeah. There was, the sort of literal metaphor for this sort of figurative thing is quite a kind of fun, whimsical conceit for your film. Cool. I guess maybe Ariel next.
Yeah. So I wanted to make Hexatic Phase because I was noticing that there was this trend in stories having to do with sexual assault and sexual trauma, where it told the experience of female violence through a very black and white story, where it was super clear when violence was being perpetrated against a woman. So I was more interested in telling a story about the gray liminal spaces where the violence or the trauma was sort of unclear and still being processed, to really get into the headspace that can often be more complicated, which is, I don't know what happened. And I feel traumatized, I feel assaulted, but I don't know the truth of the experience. And oftentimes that then gets turned inward and becomes a spiral of self-blame and shame. And you don't have that certainty to shore yourself up. So I use this metaphor of melting to sort of describe that interior space.
I guess Heidi next.
Well, basically, I was making my graduation film, and I was more or less combining two ideas together. So one was basically, it is a flash fiction work that I read by Vietnamese writer called Thơ Thức, who lives in France. And the other one is that I wanted to make a film about loss. because yeah, it's just something I wanted to make a film about, like just and so like combine the two into the idea of a Vietnamese man who has lived for a long time in the UK and still feels like he doesn't quite belong. So it's about his loneliness, his struggle, his sense of alienation, even though he has lived for a long time in UK, but he still feels like he doesn't quite belong. So he has to kind of cling to his job or to some kind of identity because he doesn't quite belong in the UK anymore. And if he were back in Vietnam, he would probably not belong there either. So like he had to cling to something. And then so someday it appears that like his worst fear becomes true, that in some sense he no longer exists. Like the thing that proves that he exists is no longer there. So yeah.
He just sort of over the course of the film just like, you know, disappears. Sort of everyone around him just doesn't seem to know who he is anymore. And that's just something I think that's very relatable is the idea that like a genuine fear that like, you know, everyone around you and everything you love kind of just like dissipates out of your life. That was something that was really powerful for me. Yeah, Britt.
So the inspiration for Circus Person happened when I was on a solo road trip from Los Angeles to New York to see the final Barnum and Bailey circus show of all time.
The last
and
one.
The very last one. And why did I go on that road trip? Because I was heartbroken and I had the permission that that opening gave me to do something for no particular reason. And so this film was born out of that impulse to do something for no reason at all.
Excellent. Razan?
Well, Midas was made for multiple reasons. The story came from me and the screenwriter actually trying to participate in a film competition, a screenwriting competition where we had to write a two-header in a hotel room. And it's just two people in a hotel room having a conversation. And I'm personally fascinated by the concept of Turing testing and testing machines and seeing how close they can become human. And the concept of science fiction and the philosophical questions that come with it is something that I like. But more importantly, personally, the story then developed into my own personal fear of motherhood, where I've been married for a while, and the question of should I have kids or not is the biggest question that is constantly chasing me. And I've always felt like maybe I don't want to have children, but that maybe there is this program in my system that one day is gonna kick in, and I'm gonna want what I don't want. And then that's how my main character Sybil became. So it was a person who's testing a robot child who's supposed to go on the market and be sold, and she's testing it that it's perfect and it's not aware that it's a machine. And then it starts developing awareness, which makes it more human, and thus it malfunctions. But then the film is about the person testing him, the woman who is connecting with this machine as if it's her own kid, because it starts adapting and becoming her own child as she sits with it in the hotel room, and awakens this thing in her, and it becomes ultimately her downfall, leading to a big like twist in the end that I'm not going to say, but anyway, maybe you guys will get to see it because it's a big twist. But that's the idea. So it's my own fear and back and forth on the concept of motherhood and how it also feels a little bit synthetic, especially in my society. So I'm Arab, I'm Muslim, and I am 1000% expected to have children and just have a family, and that's what's expected of me. And it's literally like a program, like you're one in a million on a you know, like a machine in a factory. So it's kind of, it came from that, the idea and the concept, and then we applied the whole existential science fiction questions that I love so much into it, and became like two robots testing each other and stuff.
Yeah, but something that is really cool about that is, you know, despite your film in particular being the most kind of out there, grounded in genre filmmaking, right? Yeah. There's still this like humanistic element to it that's really important. And I think in all of your films that's something that is important when we watch films, is that we, as an audience, we want something that sort of grounds it in reality, right? So that we can, you know, feel for the characters and not just kind of not that so that we're not disassociated from it.
You have to, especially in like genre and high concept films, which is most of what I do.
Yeah.
It's very tough to do it because when you're first starting out, you're always so caught up with the idea and the concept and the world you're building, and the story becomes about that, but that's not what people connect to. You have to have real characters who are human, who are grounded, no matter how crazy and over the top the world they exist in is. And that's really the biggest challenge in doing genre film, is that it is hyper realism while being so far away from realism that you kind of have to drag your story back to realism, and it's a big struggle. Hopefully it worked out in this film, but yeah, it was something I struggled with a lot. It's like, it's a human story, but they have to look a certain way. I'm like, but it's a human story, so back and forth on that a lot.
Yeah, I think everybody has all of your lead performances in your films all kind of are not only believable, but sort of grounded in that kind of humanism where I relate to them all. I'm curious, how did you guys kind of land on that sort of your lead actors, those performances to help ground your films? I guess we can start with Tracy again.
Well, I had worked with Alyssa Swade, the female lead, about 10 years before, and I knew I wanted to work with her again. She's really good with like kind of magical kind of tones, and the funny thing is I wrote Ghosted kind of as a much darker piece first. Like the first script was very much, she was very aware of her baggage, and it was really different. And I had also wanted to work with Joseph Reitman. I'd worked with him on another short years ago, and I thought I'll just do a chemistry read with these two and see how it works. So they came over and they read it, and she read it just light and unaware of her baggage. And I was she went to the restroom afterwards, and Joe and I just looked at each other like, this is it. We have to do this now because her performance pretty much informed the tone and everything. And then all of a sudden it went from this dark piece to this sort of magical light fairy tale kind of tone, And I actually had a friend who used to live downstairs who was an illustrator, and he worked in animation. And I was like, hey, do you want to do live action with me? Because all of a sudden I think I need to do this kind of in a storybook kind of animated way. So then he hopped on and helped me. So.
Yeah, it's really weird that you said that, because I'm trying to imagine it now without the whimsy that is sort of central to it, and also with your main character kind of not being really hyper focused on her baggage, because I think one of those kind of that pivotal scene where she sort of recognizes it for the first time at the end of the film and then decides to leave it behind. I that's like the icing on the cake there, right? Like how does that film? It's so curious to think about it working in like the earlier drafts and how it works without that.
It was definitely early in the development when they read, and thank God I didn't go the other way, because the whole point of it is realizing that with these things we carry around that we don't need, and once we're aware of them, then we feel the weight of them. And I think love can teach you that you don't need to carry those things around anymore, So that's the point of the film. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Cool. I guess Hai next.
Okay. About the actor. So I think I should go back and talk a bit about the development of the script.
Sure. Yeah.
So like originally I was thinking of telling a story of a Vietnamese man. And then I thought that it's probably too much trouble because like I was there at film school, and it's just difficult. Like I know it will be difficult to find a Vietnamese actor. So I thought we'd choose we'd go the safer way and just turn the character into a white British man and just focus on the loneliness or his difficulty in trying to connect to people, and like that sort of thing. And then after I picked the script and the project was approved, and like I was developing the script and was talking to a tutor, and then I was persuaded by the tutor to go back to my original idea of making the character Vietnamese, because that's something I know about. And also I think lots of people don't really know much about like experience of Vietnamese people, like specifically South Vietnamese people, like after the war, like after 1975, after the war ended, and then like a lot of people had to, flee the country in boats, and like a lot of people died. But like, like it's like 50% like chance, like people could just die, and then the people became refugees in the UK, um, and so I decided to tell a story, and then we started casting, and it was horrible because like it was just difficult to find someone who is Vietnamese, like around that age, who could act and who is South Vietnamese. Because I think, like I thought that with our budget, it's just difficult to find a professional actor. Like if we have to get the professional actors, like from Vietnam, for example, it would be too expensive, and also with the story that I was telling, it would not really go very well with the Vietnamese government. So like I was thinking of like that I couldn't really get an actor in the UK, so I was like casting around the world, and in the end I had to fly an actor from the US to the UK, and he's also South Vietnamese, so he's not a professional, but he had acted a bit before, and he had the background to understand the to understand the character, like the sense of living in exile, like the feeling that you don't quite belong where you live, and the sense of loss, you know what I mean. So yeah, I got someone who had like a similar background, who could understand the character.
Yeah, that's amazing that you, yeah, that you flew him into. I bet that heightened the performance in a way. The fact that he was not only a South Vietnamese who'd moved somewhere else, but then was transplanted to the UK to shoot this thing. I bet he brought something from that experience to the role.
Yeah. And also like during the casting, some people were asking if I could just choose another Asian actor to play the role, like Chinese, for example. But I thought that either I stick to the script and make him like still South Vietnamese, or I just like go back to the idea of a white British man. Because like if it's like if it's a different kind of ethnic group, like as in like not white British, then it's about something specific, and like we Vietnamese will have a specific history. And I feel like if I make a character like Chinese or something, I wouldn't understand any of that. So like I just have to, and also like there's some of the dialogue in Vietnamese as well. So I absolutely have to get someone who's South Vietnamese. Like a northerner would have a different accent, and also a northerner would have a different kind of experience. And obviously I'm not saying that you have to be the same kind of identity if you play the role. I just mean in it context, when I didn't have the means to get a professional actor, I had to get someone with a background to understand the role and to play the role, if you know what I mean. So
right.
Yeah, so like I don't think that we just have to like get someone with a similar experience or similar identity or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Ariel, what about the lead in your performance, or the lead performance in your film?
Yeah, so I worked with Kelly Connor, and I had the amazing privilege to work with her for quite a while, because we met. I run a scene study group with a group of actors where we like work on scenes twice a month, and we'd had a chance to work together quite a bit in that context. I knew the film didn't have a really grounded, quiet, central performance, because it's all her. There's really not really acting off of anybody. There's no distraction. And because I was trying to tell this story that existed in this sort of uncertain space, anybody who was going to take it into a really big performance or sort of didn't have access to that quiet kind of internal life wasn't going to work. The whole film would fall apart. So she just has this capacity to say so much by saying so little. So she was was incredible to work with her because she's really the only one on screen the entire time. So she just blew me away. And it was so much fun to work with her throughout the process, and doing prosthetics, and she was game for anything. I was covering her in goo for the whole movie because she's melting. So she was
Yeah. Yeah, she really, I guess, chews up the room and the scenes she in. It kind of like, because she is the central figure, and there's not other sort of people for her to act off of. She really has to own the role, and she does own the role.
Yeah, of course, and she had this massive facial prosthetic on with
oh yeah,
glue and glue dripping from her face, and at one point the glue went over her nose, which was the only place she had to breathe from, and she was still able to be giving me so much emotion in her eyes. I mean, it was crazy. I put her through the ringer for sure.
Yeah, it's real cool. The Britt, in your film, you're the lead actress, I believe, right? What is
Yeah.
I assume that's because it was such a personal story to you, and did you feel like you had to play that role, or did you try to cast the role beforehand? What was the process?
Well, it's funny. Well, I've been working with myself my whole life, so
right. Yes.
But actually, against all logic and advice from everyone I spoke to, I did the crazy thing of directing myself for the first time, and it really wasn't my first choice. This film really started out as an experiment because I really wanted to direct something. I've been acting professionally for many years, and I wanted to just direct something. And I was really fortunate to have a team around me during production. My DP, Alex Naufel, and my creative producer and editor, Alex Nell. I had two Alexes sandwiching me who really helped to just hold space and create an environment where I felt like I could be really fluid between the roles of directing and acting. And I'm really glad that I ended up doing it, because I also put myself as the actor through the ringer. I'm smiling about your melting story, because I must have been in paint on my body, I don't know how many times in the film, and subsequently taking showers. So I was constantly wet in the film and running all over the set, looking at Video Village, wet, and then running back in. And I'm sure I could have asked another actor to do that, but I was glad to take one for the team in that regard.
Yeah, it's God. I'm just imagining the process of doing the whole scene and then having to do all the showering, because you have so much paint all the time, especially early on, and then in that final sequence where you go and you lay in that, it's like a stream or a river, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just covered in all that paint. Who did that paint, by the way? Did you apply it to yourself, or did you have someone on set to apply all of it?
For that particular scene, one of our makeup artists, Shauna, and I did it together at 5 a.m. at this ranch. And we just did it really fast, painted my whole body, and then I walked through the stream. I think we got that drone shot in one take, very fortunately.
And then Razan, you have two pivotal actresses, I believe, right, in your film. The Cybele, who is sort of working with the AI robot child. What was that process like, casting them?
Well, there's something you guys need to understand. It's where I am, there is no film industry. Films are just made out of pure passion and naive dreams. So it's really whatever you get your hands on, you work with. This film was made out of pocket. The pocket is not that deep. So mostly it was people who are passionate, people who I was exchanging, I'll help you with your documentary if you help me with my film kind of thing. So it's kind of like that. But we wrote the script, like I told you, for that competition. We sat down one night, me and the screenwriter Nidal Murra, who's a longtime partner, collaborator of mine. And we just came up with this like two people idea. And I told him Turing test, motherhood. And then we started writing together and we had the script. And like by 5 a.m., we finished the script. It was like 14 pages. We finished it overnight. We're like, this is a cool script. So whoever we wanted to convince, we sort of went and pitched. And I had my producer, Neo Apelian, as well, come with me. And we were pitching to people, and they really liked the script and the idea. And because it's so different, and especially for our region, you don't see this kind of genre work. So people were like, that's cool, let's try and do it. And it was very like Black Mirror style, which a lot of people are into, but they don't make, but we want to make, but no one will give us money. Anyway, so originally in the script, it was a boy and a woman. It was actually a boy. In the beginning, it's supposed to be androgynous. You're not supposed to tell what sex it is. And then it's supposed to change and adapt according to the mother that's operating it. Like if you wanted a boy, it would turn into a boy. And if you wanted a girl, it would turn into a girl. And that was sort of what was supposed to happen. It's supposed to turn into a schoolboy throughout the film. And you see Midas in my film kind of change, but became a girl because that's... So we couldn't find, of course, where am I going to find a child actor in the Middle East who can be a robot, who's going to sit under 9 hours of like makeup? And we had like a big thing planned. She was supposed to have a big setup and we did the makeup tests and stuff. But again, it's guerrilla filmmaking and the hotel was kicking us out and we only had 24 hours to shoot the film. So we couldn't do her makeup. And I had just happened to have this white wig in my house, Halloween. I'm like, you know what? We'll just put a white wig on. But she was going to go through like a big grueling process. I was looking for this kid and I didn't know who, and I was asking around and I was willing to I was going to put out of my own pocket a lot of money for the kid. I'm like, the kid's going to get paid so his parents will let him be in the movie and stuff like that. And then one day my cousin happens to be on Instagram, Insta story, sharing stories of her daughter, who I know from family events, again, me, children at a distance. But I've never interacted with this kid, right? But she's posting on her Instagram this girl dressed in a big costume doing musical theater. I'm like, what's this? What is this talent hiding in my gene pool? So I called her mother and I'm like, you know what? I have a really cool story. And I was talking to my producer, Neo, and I'm like, maybe we can change into a girl instead of a boy. And we're like, okay. So I talk to her mom, I pitch the story to my cousin. She's like, I love it. And because this girl has dreams of being a theater star and stuff like that, I'm like, this will help her get into schools, which is true. It'll be really good on her reel for her. She's 12 years old. So she's like, okay, we'll do it. So my cousin's daughter ended up being Midas as an androgynous robot who's going to turn female. So now the challenge was I have to get somebody who looks like her, because eventually throughout the film, Midas changes and starts looking like the mother, like Sybil. So Sybil had to be somebody who looked like my cousin's daughter. So I started sending my cousin's daughter's photo to everybody. Do you know anybody who looks like this? And so during my day job, I work as a film professor. So I sometimes teach acting. So this helps me a lot because I always hire or get people hire. I don't have money, but I get people who are not actors but are passionate about it, and they end up getting a free acting workshop by being in my movies. That's pretty much the exchange. So I was looking for people, and that's how I came across Dana Dajani through a filmmaker friend of mine. She's actually a performer and a poet. She's a Palestinian woman, and I've seen her around Dubai, and I've seen her around in actually public performances, and she's just amazing. And I've seen her in films for other people, but she's a professional performer. I don't know if she's going to do my movie. So I contacted her and we met, and she was a little hesitant because, again, here we don't really have an industry. So you end up doing a lot of projects for people who are passionate, but then it goes nowhere and it feels like you've put in so much effort and it didn't yield anything. So I went to her, me and my producer, Neo, and we sort of pitched the movie to her. And again, once somebody read the script, they always sort of, because it was a really well-written script by Nidal Murra, really well-written. So it was my power, read it, just read it, you'll like it. So she read the script, she's like, I love it. I had recently, a year and a half before we started production, I had won the 48-hour film competition. So I was like, look, my movies go places, just be in it. So after a lot of negotiation stuff, she was in, and she happened to really look like my cousin's daughter. They have similar hair, big curly hair. They have very similar features. And that's how I eventually ended up working with Dana Dajani, who's an incredible actress and a beautiful poet.
Yeah, it's I now that you tell me that they're not related, you could have fooled me because of how strikingly similar they look to one another. And sort of not just that, but also I think some of the kind of the chemistry between them too.
Oh, I held a lot of workshops for the two of them, especially for Sarah Kelani, my cousin's daughter, the role of Midas. She's a theater kid, but she's never been in front of a camera before this film. So I had to first do a lot of sessions with her one-on-one, where her mother would drive her up to my house and she'd hang out here. And I'd do some screen tests with her and we'd practice and do exercises. I gave her a script and I taught her how to break it down and decide her motivation and everything she's doing. And interestingly enough, she perceived Midas as an evil character. And that's how, like, that to her, that's what she read it, interpreted as. She's like, I know I'm a robot and I'm tricking this person, like that's what she decided. I'm like, okay, go with it. And then eventually me, her, and Dana workshopped together. I got the two of them to spend a lot of time together and we rehearsed the hell out of that. Because again, we had like 24 hours to shoot that movie in that hotel room that I can only book for one day.
Right.
So one night basically. So we had to practice a lot before we went there, and it helped us get through the shots real quickly, and it also helped them develop this chemistry and stuff. So it worked out eventually.
Yeah, and that's a good example of a sort of a character finding their voice in that transition from the narrative, or when you have first written the piece, and then sort of move into developing the script, which was actually an audience question. So I think it would be interesting to go around, and because some of you have sort of briefly touched on this, but what was sort of the biggest challenge in doing that transition and finding your sort of the voice of your characters in the film? I guess Tracy can start again.
Okay. I'm all about character, like to a fault. So I have a lot of arguments about plot versus character in my life. But so like I said, it started with I'm looking for the truth of the story. So if an actor is bringing something that is more along the lines, more honest and authentic to the story than what I imagine, of course I'm gonna go that way. One interesting thing that happened is that it had a little bit of a different ending, the original script. I don't know if anybody got to see it because of the geo-blocking and stuff, but at the end, there's a breakup. I'm, giving it away, but they break up, and he returns to his ghost, she leaves her baggage and he returns to his ghost. And we were shooting it, and it was originally supposed to be he was happy for her. Like the narrator was saying, she realized she didn't need these bags and he was happy for her. And Joseph Reitman said to me, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I am sad. I want to go with her and I can't, because this is my life and this is my, his ghost is, we stay with what we know in life, a lot of the time, or we're not ready to change. We're not ready to all change at the same time, So when he said that to me, and we were really under the gun, for that was like the final scene we were shooting, but I was like, I'm forcing something that's not authentic with this, and maybe the end of this film is not happy, because originally it was going to be he was happy for her, she went off, and it just became so tragic. The end became so tragic because of what he told me, but I really can't see it any other way right now, so I kind of just look at like, my Judith Weston's one of my teachers. I don't know if you guys know who she is. She's really amazing. She's one of my directing actors teachers. And she accuses me a lot of trying to tell the whole story in one scene. I accidentally, like sometimes I'm like trying to direct the whole story in one scene. So I really kind of focus on each individual thing for the character and where that leads them in their arc overall. I'm kind of always focused on that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but one other thing I do a lot of the time is, especially in the feature scripts, is, I know where a lot of us are writers here, I'll take all the characters from that one scene, I'll take all the characters in the script, all of their individual characters scenes, and then I'll put them back to back and I'll read them with someone, and I'm just looking at what their arc is, because a lot of time there's so much in it, and I read each time through, I read the script as just that point of view, so that it can inform all the other decisions, and that's kind of how I stay true to character. I don't know if that answers it.
No, it did. I think it did. That's an especially kind of authentic moment when an actor realizes, hey, this doesn't feel authentic to my character, and then you work with them. I think that's something that's very important.
I feel very lucky that he told me that,
Yeah, exactly.
He had built that trust. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Heidi, you also kind of briefly mentioned that with your actor, that you talked a little bit already about that sort of transition and from what you originally envisioned. And with yours, you said it was based off a flash fiction, right? That so what was the process of adapting that like? How different was that from what sort of the end product was?
Very different.
Yeah, right.
The flash fiction work is mostly about about how a man who kind of finds himself like, well, not like himself disappearing, but evidence of his existence disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that gave me idea, because I myself, I have had some kind of experience, because while my mom and I moved to Norway as political refugees, so I know what it's like to live in exile, to have to leave your country and to kind of like lose your country, so to speak, and also feel like you don't really belong anywhere. So I have that experience. So I kind of combine that and the idea, the flash fiction work. And like in terms of like character voice, at first I was writing like a white British man, and I was creating a character who is awkward, who is shy, who has struggled to form relationships, and who doesn't really have a close relationship with his own daughter. And then afterward, that's like I think during the development of the script, something felt kind of wrong, because I mean, if you write an awkward character, it's quite easy, if you know what I mean. Like someone who's awkward, who's not articulate, who struggles to like express himself, it's quite easy to do. It's when you write someone who is articulate or interesting, that is when it's difficult. But writing an awkward character is simple. And something felt quite like not right. And that was when my tutor persuaded me to go back to my original idea of like making the character Vietnamese. And that's when he got a background. He got an entire history. He got a history that he carries within him, and that kind of gives him like more of a voice, if you know what I mean. Like he has something more. He has his own kind of package.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when I met the actor, he also has his own kind of package. He had some similar experience, and he has something different. He also brings his own self into the development of the character, and he changed some of the dialogue as well. So he also brings something into the character, and that's so like the creation of the character is not just my own, but is also the work of the actor.
Right. Yeah, he's so married to that backstory. It's just so hard to imagine him without that, like those specific elements of that character. Ariel, with your script, what I guess the similar question: did it change much from the initial piece you wrote, or did you discover something while making it?
Yeah, one of the challenges with my script is that so the main character experiences this sexual trauma and then attempts to process it by calling her mother and kind of discuss the events of the evening and kind of try to get some sympathy or clarity from her, and it devolves. But something that was really important to me is that you don't hear the mother's voice, you only hear the main character's voice. So I really wanted to keep the focus on Kelly's character and kind of negate any potential to have that story become watered down or have it become about the mother's perception. So one of the challenges was making it feel like a rich conversation that felt like you were getting just enough to piece it together while only hearing half of it. So Kelly and I had a lot of conversations about kind of the integrity of the conversation and the nuances that would allow the audience to kind of construct the full narrative and the full conversation while only being given small pieces of the dialogue. So we actually shot it with someone on the phone with Kelly, but you can't hear any of it. So it was a real back and forth where on set, I gave her free rein to kind of play with the lines as she was feeling them and as she was responding to them in real time. So that was definitely one of the larger challenges in terms of going from script to screen, was just seeing, I want it to feel stilted, and I didn't want it to feel like there was something missing. I wanted it to feel very much like you were just getting Kelly's experience and getting her side of things, but feeling like there was a full story there. You didn't have access to it.
Yeah, so Britt, what about with a circus person?
So this short film is actually sourced from a larger feature film that I have been writing for many years. And the impetus to make the film really happened when I started immersing myself in the world of actual small circuses. So I started traveling around the country, finding these small tenting circuses to hang out with for a couple of days or a week. And I met a particular circus up in the Mendocino area called the Flynn Creek Circus. And just being in the actual environment, the actual world of that kind of circus atmosphere really started to help me understand what the tactile experience of the film would be. And yeah, and then so much changed after we filmed. A lot of the live action was improvised, and in post-production, there's a letter that's overwritten in the film where Ava is writing a letter in her head to the other woman. And that letter went through a lot of transformation in post-production as we were trying to hone in what exactly she was doing with that letter. I really didn't want it to be just voiceover or narrative that was kind of disjointed. And it really locked in when we specified, my editor, Alex Nell, and I specified that the action of the letter is that she's testing out a letter in her head. And then from there, any voiceover that didn't match that specific action went away. And both Alex and I are actors first most, so it was nice to tap into the actor process to, in order to aid us in the editing.
Yeah. The voiceover is such a hard thing to do in film, especially in short film where you don't have that much time, and it has to feel warranted, and it definitely feels warranted in your film. Yeah, so I guess since all of you write and direct, what is the what is something you learned from making this film that has sort of influenced future projects, or that you're going to take away from that experience to move into your further creative efforts? And we can start with Roseanne this time.
Don't shoot without money.
Don't shoot without get a budget. Yeah.
Get a budget enough. Yeah, like I've done so much guerrilla filmmaking, and every time, okay, I do get better at it, but there is really there's a ceiling, a glass ceiling that I keep bumping up against, which is we don't have the money. And I'm hoping actually that Midas is one of those vehicles, because, originally this was written for, like I said, a competition, which was for a hotel chain, and they were gonna, the winners were gonna get their films funded and created. That's why we did the whole thing, you know. But then we were shortlisted, we were in the top 10, but then they came back to us, they're like, your script is our favorite script, but we don't think it's producible because it says science fiction, so it's not producible. It's like, it's gonna cost too much money. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna prove it to them. I'm gonna shoot it on zero budget.
Zero budget.
So, zero budget. And other than changing Midas to a boy and sort of his look that we couldn't do because we had so little time in the location, other than that, we actually did produce every single thing that was on that script, including the production design, including the box that Midas comes in, the software, all the little logos, all the little, and there's like, you know, like kind of like a Skynet type company, Ex Nihilo, which controls this world. We've built it into the hotel room. We did all of this in like a day and a half. And again, it really barely any, like, when it's out of your pocket, it feels like a lot of money, but it's not much. But the problem is that trying to create a film while you're focusing so much on getting it to actually happen, it really takes away from my right as a director to really sink into my film and feel it, right? And just be a director, because I'm called the director of Midas, but I've directed and edited and produced and grabbed camera, like we've done, and everybody's like that, because again, screw the filmmaking, it's chaos. So I'm half producing, half directing, half praying, you know, and I just want to direct. And I think the only way I can do it, and I don't want to do like an affordable project just because it's affordable. I have big ideas and I want to be able to do them while I'm able to immerse myself and have people who are paid take care of everything, so I can sit with just the actors and the vision and the messages and the themes and the visuals, and not have this schizophrenic experience on set where I'm flip-flopping between, I'm an artist, I'm also pragmatic, I'm also trying to get this done, I'm also, you know. So that's really the big takeaway from this, is that I'm still gonna write big ideas and genre and high concept films, and I've written 2 films since Midas, and they're all high concept in there. But hopefully, with now that Midas is in this festival run, a bunch of festival runs, I'm hoping that I can start getting proper budgets, and that's really the big change, money,
Yeah.
being able to do it, really.
Sure. Tracy, what about with you? How has this influenced your future work? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I think there are a few things. One, we crowdfunded, which I'd never done before. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting feeling like I had all this support on set. I had like 171 people, you know, are with me and want this to be made. And so it was a little less isolated, if that makes sense. It was more like, oh, I'm making this for people versus just what I wanted in my head. And, you know, and I think it maybe should always be like that, but, or a combination of your vision plus the fact that you are communicating something, you know, obviously. Another thing is, like, I learned to trust, if you pick the right people, you know, which I hadn't always been able to do before, because sometimes it's just like, who can I get? I have no money, you know, or you'll do it great, you know, like, but luckily, you know, since I've done several projects, some of them with the same people now, there's an ability to trust, and there's the shorthand that didn't exist before. And so with that, trusting people to rise to the occasion, you know, I don't have to micromanage as much, so we can talk about things. We can, you know, I really want to hear their ideas. You know, a lot of the times they were elevated, they were listening to what the core of the story was and elevating it in ways that I never even imagined, you know, like little things like fairy lights in the back of the house, you know, and magic jars. And, you know, we did some oneers, which worked really exciting. And my first Texas switch up, you know, and like all these different shots and a lot of art department things that were better than I could have imagined, you know? So I think like not settling with the wrong people if I can help it, you know, finding these people that really get it. And then once you have it, communicating and allowing them to do what they do, you know, there's a reason and they're bringing all their experience and I just want to keep having that, you know, that kind of synergy with people.
And then what about you, Heidi?
Oh, I can't answer this question because there are a million things that we have done differently.
Yeah, and there's yeah.
I mean, like, I just watched the film again yesterday. to prepare for the Q&A. And probably the last time I saw it was last year. And there's so many things I would have done differently. But I guess I guess one of the things is don't be too ambitious, I guess. Because like with our budget, again, the budget problem. With our budget, I think, and also like the time, it had too many locations, too many actors, and also the fact that I had to act in it as well. There were too many things, and also like because we were making a student film, and I happened to choose to make a film about Vietnamese person. So I had to like manage everything because no one else knew about the Vietnamese history or background. So I had to do, production design as well. And I had to like, do like the letters and, like all kind of thing. And then I also had to act in it. And it's just too much. But like otherwise, there are lots of things I would have done differently. So yeah. But I guess that like lots of filmmakers also feel the same if when they watch again their own films.
Yeah. Ariel, what are you sort of going to take away from your film, or how has that influenced your future projects?
I mean, I kind of feel like every time you make a movie, you learn about the practice all over again. Like it reinvents your understanding of the medium, and it's, I don't know, it's the greatest gift there is because it just feels like every second of the day you're just learning so much. So I think it transformed my entire understanding of my work as a director, and this film in particular was very character driven, whereas past films were more about like the concept. So that really was invaluable. So I think next films are just gonna be building on those skills and that sort of increased awareness of myself as a director. And so far, up to this point, I've produced everything that I've directed. So for the next one, I would love to not produce. That's the goal for sure.
It is a lot of work. Yeah. So, Britt, are you still working on that feature script, or have you moved on, or what is your kind of future look like for your writing and your work?
That's kind of a deeper dive question. I'm definitely, there's a whole world in there that wants to be told, and I'm not sure if it's a mini series or a feature. Mm-hmm. Right now I'm transitioning, and I'm about to work on an acting project in New York for the next 6 months. So I gotta wear a different hat for a second. But I think my biggest takeaway from making this movie, my first, was that one of my goals in making the film was that the experience on set be one that was nourishing for everyone there. And I didn't know if it was possible to do that and also be efficient, but it was. And the little details of breathing together every couple of hours, taking a minute to just check in with each other, make eye contact, all the kind of friendly small town things that you can do on set to make it feel more in flow. I discovered that those things actually impacted the film itself. And watching, the takes, I was like, oh, it matters to treat people well and to respect our bodies when we're on set for a long time. And particularly in this moment, as we're all separated, just looking back and really cherishing the time that we get to be with other humans and to practice our humanity together as we're telling stories. That's what I want to take forward.
So that's a really nice thing to sort of take from that. And I hope the next set you're on will have a similar kind of wholesomeness and respect about it.
I feel bad. Britt is like humanity, and I'm like money.
It's the two, yin and yang,
both.
right?
You need both.
You need both. Well, cool.
I'm so jealous.
We've run a little bit over, so real quickly, I would like if you would. I'm sure everybody who watched your films and really loved them would love to, sort of keep up with you all and see what you're working on next and future stuff. So if you'd like to tell them how they can go about following you guys as creatives, we can plug that real fast. Tracy.
I'm on Instagram as Tracy L, so TRACIEL, or you can look up Ghosted Short Film on almost any social media platform.
Hi.
I'm on Vimeo, so it's vimeo.com / Hải Duyên Nguyễn, so HAIDINGUYEN.
Yeah, your name. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where people can see all your work. Excellent.
Yeah, like some of them are not really online yet, but like I will publicize them soon.
Mm-hmm. And then Ariel.
I'm on Instagram. It's just Ariel McLeese, ARIEL MCCLEESE, and my website is just arielmcleese.com.
And then Britt.
My Instagram is brittle, like peanut brittle, but my name. I don't know if that was a good choice or not, but that's what happened.
And then Rizan.
Well, the film Midas is on, it has its own page on Facebook. That's M1DAS, Midas with a 1 instead of an I. And you can also find me with Razan Takhash, my name, on Vimeo. Not most of my work is out there, like it's all in festivals and stuff, but also you can follow my channel. I have a movie review channel called Raz Reviews. That's RZZ space reviews. It's on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook.
Cool. Well, thank you all for being here today. I enjoyed your films, and I'm sure all the viewers also enjoyed your films. So, and it was great talking to you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.